Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the emergency call that Boris Johnson made to Conservative MPs yesterday in order to head off a revolt against his moves to break international law. But first of all, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, there was some breaking news yesterday. As you're watching this, as I'm doing this right now, it's getting a little bit dark. I'm just trying to catch the light. I had just sorted out the videos for the weekend, and then Boris Johnson knackered at least one of them, necessitating a re-recording at some point, as he announced a remote call to any and all Conservative MPs interested in what he had to say about the law-breaking aspects of the Internal Markets Bill. Now, the turnout ran to 250 Conservative MPs, roughly. This was described as a huge turnout, but when you think about it, what we're talking about here is the issue of whether or not the UK should become a rogue state, whether it should not only break international law. A lot of countries break the law every now and then. We've broken international law quite a few times under various governments. But this is one where we're free. We're acknowledging that we are. No one is denying this. Even the Prime Minister in this call did not deny that we're going to be breaking the law over this. That is something else. And for an issue like that, is only 2/3 of MPs showing up really huge interest? Shouldn't we expect 100% of them to have taken interest in this very crucial issue? But anyway, there are essentially four things that I want to cover here. One is what Boris Johnson said ahead of this meeting, because for me that was pure gold. Two, the farce that erupted during the call, very briefly. Three, the main points that Johnson is reported to have made, because I wasn't invited myself, so this is second-hand information. And four, what I am now thinking about the whole thing. So, ahead of the meeting, Boris Johnson said that he didn't want his MPs taking what he termed a polemic view of the issue, as pushed by the media, and so wanted to put his views across, but he wouldn't be taking any questions. I mean, first of all, views. Everyone is saying that this is breaking the law. All of the law officers have said so. The government's most senior legal advisor has quit over the issue. He himself hasn't denied that it's law breaking. But anyway, that's what he said. So essentially what he's saying to his MP is, look, I know you're all a bit thick. That's why you've got completely the wrong end of the stick. But here's what I'm going to do because I'm so nice. I'm going to delay my Friday evening plans to set you all right. But I'm not interested in anything any of you got to say afterwards, so I won't be taking questions. Because that's how you mollify a rebellion, it seems. I wonder whose master plan that was. Now, during the call, Johnson's connection went down, and one of the more obnoxious backbenchers entertained the troops with his rendition of Rule Britannia. It was not reported how many MPs were still left in the call after this unhappy event. But apparently when Johnson lost his connection, Steve Baker, who's a senior member of the ERG, he was the chair of the ERG, and someone who wants the withdrawal agreement dropped, although I don't necessarily... I think he is someone who's in favour of this bill, but I don't know that for certain, but I get the strong impression he is. So apparently he offered to take over, and then Theresa May shut him up, said, no, shut up, sit down. But anyway, on to what Boris Johnson himself said. So essentially it came down to the following points in no particular order. So he alluded to it being a negotiating strategy. The usual thing, we're playing chicken, we've got to show them we're serious, this is part of all that to get us a deal. It's like, shh, we're not really going to break the law, we're just playing a trick on the EU to get the trade deal. Unfortunately, if there are any Conservative MPs still dim enough to believe this nonsense, leaders of the European Parliament yesterday, representing a majority of MEPs, made a statement saying that they will absolutely refuse to ratify any trade deal that even threatens the withdrawal agreement. Either it is implemented in full or there will be no deal. So it's irrelevant whether they think it's a negotiating strategy or not. Doesn't matter what they agree with Michel Barnier, doesn't matter what they agree with the EU Council. The EU Parliament will block it. In reality, of course, we don't know that there was any real need for such a statement. Michel Barnier is under instructions not to accept any deal that doesn't include the withdrawal agreement being implemented in full. And of course, the EU Council won't accept that either. But there it is. Second, I think his main point seemed to be about the union. He said, you know, the offending clauses in the bill were necessary in order to, as he put it, stop a foreign power breaking up our country. Now, if he were really concerned about a foreign power breaking up our country, all he has to do is stop taking Russian money, for goodness sake, and to have a proper investigation. That's all that's needed. In addition, this does not address the issue that every single Conservative MP, including Boris Johnson, in fact, especially Boris Johnson, campaigned in the general election on a promise of implementing the withdrawal agreement. The withdrawal agreement has not had a single word changed. The third point was the only one where you might say, oh, interesting, was that he was saying he was concerned about a change in interpretation of the Northern Ireland Protocol by the EU. Because, of course, his thing is, look, I didn't realise it meant that. You know, so what he's now trying to say is, oh, the shifty EU, they've changed their interpretation of it. And I'm sure Brexiteers watching this will go, oh, you dirty EU. Yeah, well, that's reasonable, Phil, isn't it? That's reasonable. They're changing their mind on it. Now, like I said, I wasn't there personally, so I don't know. But here's what I would say to that. If he were really concerned about a change in the interpretation, what corroborating evidence did he offer up for it? How exactly is the interpretation changed, for example? What are the EU now saying that the UK need to do that they weren't saying back in October? Because I've been following events closely since this whole Brexit malarkey kicked off, and very closely since I've been fortunate enough to be able to dedicate most of my working time to this topic. And I have seen no change whatsoever in the very clear implementation that the EU have been calling for since before we left the EU. Because they published their proposals for the deal, but they've also explained very clearly what they need to happen regarding Northern Ireland. So, and also bear in mind that the way arrangements are for trade between Northern Ireland and Great Britain, actually, and the EU have accepted this, that will be for Britain to sort out as well. The EU won't be dealing with that. All they need to do is to monitor the process. That's it. Monitor it. They don't get involved. They just need an office somewhere in Northern Ireland to work from a base of operations, and they'll just monitor, but it'll be for British officials to deal with it. So again, what interpretation is causing a problem here? He'd need to explain that one to me. And the final one, well, it wasn't necessarily the final one in chronological order, but in terms of his points, another pitch was to tell MPs not to go back to the miserable squabbling days of last autumn, which is essentially telling them to do as their glorious leader says, because if there's any disagreements, well, it's their fault. You know, he doesn't take it that he is disagreeing with his MPs. No, they're disagreeing with him and you should stop it. So in essence, what he's trying to say is that voting for this bill, far from leading to the breakup of the union and no trade deal, because that's what it would actually do. No. Apparently, voting for this bill means that we prevent the breakup of the union and we get ourselves a Brexit deal. I'm not sure if that will sway any of them. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I'm under no illusions. The majority of those Conservative MPs would have voted for this anyway. They'll just do as they are told. But of the ones who would not, I mean, I can't see how he could have swayed any of them. Because what we have here, we have a situation where Boris Johnson is treating his MPs as imbeciles. The question is he right? Because I have to say, you know, like I said, the announcement of this came as a surprise to me. It is still surprising even now I'm talking about it, because I was seeing reports, and I'm still seeing reports, of only about 20 to 30 rebel MPs ready to vote against this. Now, that is not enough to defeat it in the Commons. Even if all opposition MPs voted against it, but the DUP have said they'll vote for it. So this is why I've sort of said in the past, you know, in theory, 40 Conservative MPs voting against it should do it, but 50 will make sure. Because I didn't know about the DUP's position. The DUP position is they're going to support it. So for Johnson to have made this call suggests, I mean, you're not going to do that if you think there's going to be about 20 to 30 rebels voting against it. I mean, you don't want that, but he can afford it. So it would suggest to me that he believes, or the whips believe, that the rebellion could grow over the weekend, because this was last thing Friday they did this. So they were obviously of the belief they don't want to leave it till Monday because, you know, pressure could build up over the weekend. And there could be a serious rebellion by the time it goes for its first vote next week. And of course, if it's defeated in the first vote, there's not really going to be a second vote. I mean, this is a desperate time for Boris Johnson, because this isn't even one of those things where you can just U-turn. You might say, oh, well, this is going to be the next U-turn, is it? No. He's absolutely committed to this. He seems absolutely intent on breaking the law regarding the Northern Ireland Protocol, despite the damage that this would do to the peace process. Which, of course, is why people all over the world are really concerned about, particularly in America and the EU. Other people around the world have expressed concern as well. Part of that will also be because, well, you're wanting to negotiate with us. I mean, can we trust you? But given that he seems determined to do this, what he clearly wants to avoid is having a British court calling him out for it. So the purpose of the bill, remember, is to prevent a British court interfering, because he's removing certain aspects of the withdrawal bill from British law. You know, he will still be breaking the law. You know, the government will still be breaking international law. This bill doesn't change that. All it does is means that they won't necessarily be breaking British law. But even then, I mean, we don't know. There is an argument that this could go to the Supreme Court and they could say, well, actually, no, Parliament doesn't have the right to put in place something that allows you to break international law. I don't know. But that's the intention of it, to stop a British court doing that. You know, in terms of an international court, okay, the government can be taken to court and it can find us guilty. And then what can that court do? It can issue a fine and tell us to behave. Well, okay, we refuse. The only step then is economic sanctions. But as Brexit is the mother of all economic sanctions, maybe Boris Johnson takes the view that any further EU sanctions won't really do much more harm. It's a bit like someone threatening to shoot your foot off. So what you do is you blow both your legs off and go on then. Either way, this is headed for a showdown, it seems. I don't think, even if he were to be told there's enough Tory MPs going to vote against this and you go ahead with this vote and we're going to vote against it, I don't think he'd pull it. That's the impression I'm getting anyway. I think he's going to throw everything on the line for this. Just like he did to protect Cummings. I think he's going to throw everything at it. He may even threaten to withdraw the whip from any MP who votes against him, and then he'd have to follow through on that, which means he could end up sacking another 24 MPs over this. Theresa May won't be one of them, because although she will not be voting for this, she is reportedly out of the country and so can't vote at all. Not quite sure what's more important than protecting the rule of law in the country you claim to serve. That means she can't get back for next week. But there you are. I mean, maybe she will. Maybe she will. But those are my thoughts anyway. It's going to be a hot topic next week from people who might be thinking I've done a few videos on it this week. I mean, there are other things to do next week as well, but this is going to be one of them. So hang on to your hats. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.